Hey YouTube, and welcome back to Part-Time Fab. So in today's video I am going to be making a bench mule. At least that's what I've always called it. Basically it's a device that typically hooks to your bench, whether you bolt it or clamp it, and then it's got some arms on it that then are bolted to anything. People make different arms to bolt to engine heads, or in my case, the main purpose I want to use it for is to rebuild my center section for the race car on the 9-inch Ford. So, and I want to use it for rebuilding the Power Glide as well. So I'm going to make the arms a little longer than probably typical is, or what is typical. So I'm going to be using this for the arms. We're going to cut out the steel out of there. And I'm going to, instead of making one that mounts to a bench, I'm going to make this one mount to my universal stand that I made a long time ago. I'll try to link that video in a little square right here so you can go check that out. But you know, just kind of make it versatile, something that I can slide under something to kind of get it out of the way. And we're going to use some tubing that I have here so it can turn, and well, you'll see as we go on. So without further ado, let's get into this build. So as you can see, the first thing we got to do is kind of do some mock-up. We've got to do some just kind of general measurements here so we can cut some of this steel. This tubing right here is going to be welded to the square tubing that will be slid over top of the universal stand. Just want to make some nice cuts there, and as you can see, this slides over pretty well. Just doing some mock-up, just some general measurements here. Nothing has to be exact, but it works pretty good. Everything turned out real well, but just, you know, the mock-up and making sure everything looks like it'll fit. This tool right here that I purchased, it's a Noga deburring tool, and man, that thing is handy for deburring inside corners and outside corners. It does a really good job. Really glad I got that. So here we're going to notch out this square tubing, and you notice there, standing off to the side when I open those gauges, I do try to practice some safety in my shop. So I guess we're just getting the torch here feathered out and going to do some preheating on this. This notch had a lot of dross on it for some reason. I don't remember why I couldn't make a good clean cut. There was a ton of dross though I had to clean off. But I did get both sides cut pretty good, actually. Once I got it cleaned up, it was notched pretty well. Probably a lot better than I could have even done with a hole saw. A hole saw would have took forever to go through that thick metal. Definitely oxygen settling was the way to go. But after I cleaned all this up, it fit together real well. Just real happy with the fit up. There was a little gap on one side. The one side was excellent, and the other side, yeah, had a little bit of gap, but nothing you couldn't fix with a little extra MIG wire. And as you'll see coming up here, we'll be laying some welds on it. Welds turned out pretty fair. I didn't really need to weld this thing all the way around, but I actually thought I was going to have to slot this and use it, kind of put some ears on it to be able to, you know, tighten up a bolt and squeeze the tube together. But eventually I'd come up with the idea of just using kind of cutting a hole in the top and using a bolt to go down in there, and I welded a piece of rod to the bolt, and kind of like a T-handle to tighten it down, and it works pretty good. The T-handle is, you know, you kind of, it's a lot. I think it turned out better than slotting that top tube, but yeah, it worked out real good. I'm happy with it. I've not used it just yet. I've not rebuilt the rear end just yet, but I did bolt it on there, and it's sitting there waiting for that day. So right here's where I cut a hole in the top and got my welded that nut onto the tubing. I really need to get a drill press. My old drill press bit the dust. I really need to invest in another one. This probably would have been easier with a drill press, having a nice clean hole there versus that. I had to do quite a bit of cleanup on that little hole before I could weld the nut to the top. But as you can see, it works pretty well. That tube slid inside of the other tube real good. Just right here, this was a tough part too, was getting this bolt to sit on top and fairly straight. The clamp helped out a bunch to keep it still while I welded around it. I chose arc welding for this particular task because the bolt had some galvanized on it, and the flux on the cleaning action of those the arc welding rods is a lot better than just regular MIG or TIG for that matter. TIG, you got to clean all that stuff off for TIG. But here we're using the Everlast saw, or the Evolution saw. This saw has been pretty good. I've used it on a bunch of small projects. Seems to do real good. Sure can't complain. Really appreciate the Evolution folks sending that over to us. So here I'm making the handle for that the nut. That was kind of small and tedious to weld too. I need a better fixture to do some of this welding on. The clamp there that I had, that little bitty clamp, is kind of small. I need something larger that you can actually, you know, put some pressure on. This weld turned out real good, actually. I put a small bevel around the tubing, which gave the bead somewhere to go, and it just kind of sunk in there real well and turned out a lot better than I expected it to, actually. Haven't done a whole lot of arc welding lately, and that just turned out a lot better than I thought it would. Turned out real well, as you can see here. The next thing I had to do was cut a couple holes in the top again. Drill press, need that drill press. And so here we're cutting some square tubing to make the arms that will go out and hold the center section. And I had some tabs. I forget where I got those tabs from, but had them in a box, had them for a really long time, just, you know, didn't need them for anything else, and lucked up and found them and used them on this project. So here's kind of getting to the end. This is kind of what it looks like on the universal stand. I can just kind of pop that off and throw it on a shelf, and it's out of the way, and I can use the stand for something else. But worked real good. One thing I did need to do is tighten the bolts down, because they, as you can see right here, they kind of shift on me when I'm turning it. But got a wrench and a socket out and tightened them up real well, and this is going to be a good tool, something good to hold it by. But there it is, all done. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe for more videos just like this one. We'll see you next time.